One of the most recognizable characters in Christian Christmas literature is Ebenezer Scrooge from Charles Dickens' The Christmas Carol. I'm sure you're familiar with the story, and you know what kind of a person Scrooge was as we're introduced to him in the beginning of the book. He was definitely a grumpy malcontent. He had one very descriptive word for Christmas: humbug. He thought it was a big farce. Didn't mean anything to him. Because Scrooge, throughout his life, had convinced himself that he was unlovable. If you know the story, you know that the ghost of Christmas past takes him into his past and shows him when he was a young boy and how he had been rejected by his father, who blamed him for the death of his mother, who had died in childbirth, giving birth to him. He was pushed aside. And then throughout his life, he began to equate his respectability, his worthiness in relation to others in terms of his success as a businessman. And more, his heart was closed to the people around him as he encased himself in this idol of gold, to the point where his one relative, his nephew, consistently coming to ask him to celebrate Christmas with him, was rejected. And so Scrooge goes through this transformation, as we know, after the ghost of Christmas past reintroduces him to himself. He shows him who he was before he became this hard-hearted miser. And Scrooge goes through the process of recognizing the people who have been around him all this time, who have been caring and loving towards him, even though he has rejected it. And then begins to lament that it might be too late. And as we know, when he sees the ghost of Christmas future, he is terrified that he is already dead and will no longer be able to redeem himself. But, of course, we all know the happy ending. He wakes up, it's Christmas morning, and he's very joyful. What did he learn? What was the secret? This great secret of life that Ebenezer Scrooge learned in his journey with the ghosts of Christmas. When the Savior was announced to the world, the message was, you will find him in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. Swaddling clothes is a euphemism for rags. Lying in a manger because there was no room in the inn. Someone who has been marginalized, someone who has been excluded, certainly has not been invited into the homes of those who could provide hospitality. This is the Savior of the world. Jesus Christ introduced into the world in the flesh as a child who is poor, homeless, and seemingly unwelcome. What is the value of this person? What does he symbolize for the human person? If not, that it is not a matter of what we have or where we stand in society that matters to God. All that matters is our very existence. We are loved by God because Jesus came into the world to show us that it isn't what we have that makes us lovable by God. It is simply the fact that we are. And just as Scrooge discovered through his journey with the spirits that he did not have to prove himself, that he was lovable, so too, you and I do not earn God's love. We don't have to make God love us. We are loved. That's the message of Christmas. It's really not a very big secret. It's not a great mystery for us to comprehend. That we are simply loved because we are God's people. And once we come to that realization, this season of Christmas, this feast of the incarnation of Christ, touches our hearts in a way that lifts us up and makes us very joyful, knowing that we are loved by a God who will never abandon us. And that in the season of Advent, as we have been preparing for the coming of Christ, not only this first coming of Christ among us in the flesh, but also the fulfillment when Christ will come again and all will be at peace, all will be the way it should be. This is the message of this feast of Christmas. And so, may we be uplifted this season by the knowledge that we are loved by God, and that this beautiful feast of Christmas shows us that we don't have to do anything at all to earn God's love, but simply accept it.